In today's show, Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report returns, and we talk about what's next for the Blazers. Can Deni Avdija and Toumani Camara continue to ascend? Will this be the year that Shaedon Sharpe or Scoot Henderson truly pops and looks like the future of the franchise? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Coming at you 3 days a week in August through the first couple weeks of September. Then we'll be back to 5 days a week and rolling along. Joining me for another episode this week, your friend and mine, Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Reports. If you missed Sean's first appearance, it was way back all the way yesterday, waiting there for you in your feeds. Sean, how you doing? Welcome back.
And you know that we're recording these at different times because I'm not wearing the same clothes, just so people know.
Exactly. Yeah. This is, we really split these up and we didn't record them all in one giant marathon.
Nope.
Sean, Deni Avdija was the Blazers' best basketball player last season.
I would agree.
What else can he do? Like, what is the next? If there is more for Deni, what does it look like?
I think if he can cut down on the turnovers, we already saw so much of what he does from a playmaking standpoint, and I'd say most of it was positive.
Yeah.
But some of the he was still having like 7 turnover games where you're like, okay, like, and I realize that's part of the risk of, a guy that, has the ball in his hands that much and is throwing that many passes, that there's going to be some bad passes, especially with some young guys. But that to me would be the thing that he could maybe cut down on. And then also, he had a good shooting year. He had a good shooting year his last year in Washington. So now, you've had 2 years in a row where it feels like that's sort of sustainable. So, if you can see that even get to a different level, then I think at that point, you're looking at Deni like, okay, is this your franchise guy now? I don't know. I think he's got a long way to go to get there, but he was their best player last year, and we'll see how it goes. But I think there was from a lot of different corners, there was a lot of like wondering why they made that trade, and I certainly I questioned it at time at the time last summer too. But clearly that they saw something. And then clearly, they were right about it.
Yeah, I think at least from this particular corner of the internet, the question wasn't whether Deni Avdija was like good, because I thought he was pretty good, particularly the second half of this season with Washington when Kyle Kuzma was out and they kind of gave him the ball. It was like, why are the Blazers trading draft picks, right? And now I think what we've seen is like that's how they do it.
They just when they want a player, they go out and get that player, and clearly that was a player they identified.
Yeah. I would say, I would think that's like, for me, I guess, and that was kind of maybe learning the, how the build was going to go is like, like my question was like, why are the Blazers the team trading what is like effectively unprotected picks? Although the 2029 one is enough. It's enough sandwiched between that things are really going to have to go wrong for it to be super juicy, but anything's possible. But most likely it's probably in the teens, right? They were giving up like 2 picks in the teens for Deni. And I think, based on year 1 of the Deni experiment, 2 picks in the teens, pretty good price. Yeah. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot though, right? Like based on what they've done this summer, it's not like they've added a bunch of other guards. Drew Holiday isn't a hand like ball in hand type of guy. And while they added Damian Lillard, he's not going to play. Blake Wesley's not going to play. Blake Wesley's going to probably play more than Dame. I think actually that's a pretty safe bet, but they haven't, it's not like they added, a bunch of ball dominant type of players. I think the sort of point Deni thing, they're probably going to lean into it more. Is that your read on it too?
I think so, just because when you have a guy that size that can handle the ball like that, it creates some advantages. I would say the one little bit of competition, and this is also where the Simons Holiday trade, I think, works out well for them, because Simons was a guy that needed the ball in his hands a lot. And so now, I think Holiday's a better fit there. The one thing that I would say is, if you want to see what Scoot does, I mean, Scoot is not a good enough shooter to be able to play that much off the ball. So when Scoot's out there, he needs to probably be the one running the offense, and whether he starts and whether he and Deni play together a lot, which I would imagine they would, how are they going to divide that stuff up? But that's really the one guy that I see as, the other piece or the other player that they might, run a lot of the offense through besides Deni.
Yeah. I mean, you also just like, I think what we've seen the trend of the last, I don't know, 4-ish seasons. It's just like multiple ball handlers, right? Like just having multiple guys, multiple playmakers. Even the Pacers, who played like effectively 3 guards a lot, like having, Haliburton does everything, but then like having Nembhard to do kind of some of that creative stuff, and then having McConnell play with those guys and having more point guards.
Even
like
Pascal can handle the ball a little bit.
Yeah. Like I think having multiple creators out there will be valuable. And the Blazers don't have a ton of playmaking. I guess depending on how good Young Hansen is and how much he's able to play, because then maybe they have a variety of creative playmakers. Toumani Camara, I think he was about as fun a season in terms of like a guy establishing himself on the national radar as you can imagine, because he just flopped his way to fame. Bless him. Where does Toumani, in the sort of the same vein, what are the steps that Toumani takes to level up his game to another place?
Well, it's the offense with him. We know how good he is defensively. He made second team all defense as a second-year player. He kind of became he became like the Lou Dort or like the 2021 Herb Jones, where like
he was Herb Jones, yeah, exactly.
Where it's like the same week every national podcaster who considers themselves like a smart, NBA mind got the memo that like they have to start talking about like, hey, who's really underrated? Toumani Camara. People aren't really watching the Blazers a lot, but Toumani Camara is doing like everybody kind of got that memo at the same time about him defensively. I think offensively, I mean, that's kind of where it goes from, this is obviously we know Toumani Camara is like one of their most important players because of how good he is defensively and how much of a tone setter he is on that end. If he can become more consistent offensively, then now it's suddenly, hey, this is actually a two-way threat instead of just a guy who people say is a two-way player when they're a really good defender and they're just not terrible offensively. And
they mean it as an insult. It's like, well, he's one of the best two-way players in the league.
Right.
It's like, well, that just means that he's not good on offense. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Or like, or just, a really good all-around player. But like, I mean, you just look at like his shooting numbers last year and you already see the jump that he made. On pretty significantly increased volume. He went from 33.7% from 3 his rookie year to 37.5% last year, on 2.1 more attempts per game. So
yeah, he basically doubled his attempts and got a lot, and B was an above average shooter from 3. Like he was his end of his rookie season, he shot pretty well, but he was taking significantly fewer shots, about maybe 2 a night. And he bumped that up. Yeah. Do you think there's space for him to grow as like as a guy who can, like, I'm not like a primary creator, but a little bit more ball in his hands type of attacking off the bounce? Is that a place you see him growing, or is he more like become an elite shooter type of stuff? Like where do you see him on offense?
I don't know how much of a priority having him grow as a ball handler is going to be for them, just because they have so many other. We just talked about how Scoot and Deni are going to be doing a lot of that stuff. And, they do have Drew Holiday, who doesn't need to be that all the time, but he certainly has the ability to be. So I don't know if they're really going to prioritize having Toumani do a lot with the ball in his hands. I think that the pathway to him to become a better offensive player is just to get that shot to where it's like, shoot like he did last season again, or even a little bit higher.
Right.
Like if he can do that and he can become an actual 3-and-D guy, and again, not just something that people say that about because that's like the one skill they have offensively. If he can actually become that, then that changes their ceiling a lot.
Yeah, and the respect you get when you have real shooters that scare people, that does change the geometry a fair amount. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he was better as a passer at the end of last season, but he wasn't really good at it, but he was certainly better than he's ever been. And so I'm curious what other layers there are for him, but I do agree with you. I don't think his role is going to like if you assume good health for everybody, I don't think his role is going to like massively expand. I would agree with that. We haven't mentioned Shaedon Sharpe this week. Let's talk about Shay in the second segment. Join us there, won't you? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever wish that managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a great budgeting app, to be sure, but it's really a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. So you can track your spending by category, find out how much you're spending on, say, digital subscriptions, how much you're spending on restaurants, groceries, things like that. And also, if you share your finances with someone, you can both track those shared accounts all in one place. And what I like about Monarch Money is everything is right there. When you pull up the app, all of your accounts, your checking account, your savings account, your mortgage, your other investments that you have, everything is there waiting right there for you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. And the code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, still chatting here with Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report. Shaedon Sharpe's extension eligible this summer. We are recording this maybe 2 or 3 days before it drops, so there's a chance that by the time you hear this, he will sign an extension. But we will see. Ignoring the contract stuff, what does Shaedon Sharpe need to do to be like very firmly, quote, part of the plan, capital P, part of the plan? Like what is like a high level Shaedon Sharpe look like this season?
It's just doing it every night.
Yeah.
That's all. Like we've seen what it can be. We've seen the best case scenario of what it is. You know, that game against Atlanta that he had early on in the season. You know, he's had, every week or so, every couple of weeks, he'll have games where, he goes off and, the shot is falling and he's getting to the rim and, he's also engaged defensively, which obviously was a thing midway through the season when Chauncey Billups benched him for that reason. And then, he ends up, playing better on that end and winning his starting spot back. Like we've seen what it can be for him. It's just, and I think if he can do that consistently, then at that point, the Blazers are happy to give him whatever money probably that he's looking for. But until we see him do that every night, or at least most nights, and it's not just this theoretical thing where it's like, well, he does this sometimes, and if he could just do that every night, he's going to be a really good player. Until he actually starts doing it every night, it's still going to be kind of a theoretical thing. And so that's kind of what you need to see. You see what it is for him to be at his best. It's just, he needs to do it more often.
Yeah, I would say you don't have to squint with him really,
No.
right? Like, it's like he averaged 18 a game last year, 18 and a half maybe. He's like, you don't need to squint with him. It's like, yeah, he can do that. He didn't shoot well last year. He did not shoot well last year. Shot 31% from three. His rookie season in a very different role, and playing off of Damian Lillard, which is just a different flavor of something. He shot pretty well from three. He shot 37% on like 200 and some attempts, 250 attempts off the top of my head. He just hasn't the next 2 years as the context has changed. And it's not like he's going to play with an all NBA guard this year unless Scoot
maybe Scoot really
takes that. Yeah, I don't want to put him on like, oh, well, he's just Scoot, just like become, transition from like an interesting 21-year-old to like third team all NBA, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
But like,
it certainly helps. In
your mind, is the jumper the thing that unlocks Shaedon Sharpe? Like, is that the thing that changes the progression, or is there a level? Is there a version of Shaedon Sharpe that's very good without being a high-level three-point shooter? Like, how do you view that?
I think he needs to I don't think he needs to be an elite three-point shooter, like over 40%. But if he could just get back to where he was his first year, where he shot 36%, sure. Just be respectable enough. But to me, the bigger thing is the defense, because physically he has the ability to be a great defender. He just isn't locked in on that end every single night. And we've seen the difference. Like, there are some nights where he is, and he's a very good defender, but there's a reason Chauncey benched him in that Chicago game. So, if I think the defense is the bigger swing factor, because the offense, I think Shaedon's one of those players where, like, when he's playing well defensively, he is locked in more on offense. So, like, you want to see both of those things kind of clicking together. And I think the defense is the thing that I think is maybe the bigger X factor there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't, I feel like when I watch him on defense, he's thinking it so much. Like he's just thinking it. And so sometimes he's really slow on off ball stuff where you can tell he's just thinking about how it's going to work. Where do I need to be? And it's like, if you're using your brain that much, if you're having to watch and think, it's just so hard to play like instinctive basketball. But so maybe maybe I'm skeptical of him ever being this like elite weak side team defender, team concept guy. But I do think there's a world in which he's strong. He's really strong. He finishes the rim so well. He's so strong. It's like ball in front of you, good defender. That would feel like that's like a step for him. It's like maybe the other stuff gets there eventually when he's been in the league for however long and you just like recognize it better. But like ball in front of you, physicality, don't get beat, don't get blown by, that type of defense. Because he does have, I agree with you, he does have the physical tools to at least like be hard to get past. And we just haven't seen that with like at a really consistent level.
And you're on the floor with, in his end, Deni Avdija, Toumani Camara, Drew Holiday, even Scoot. Scoot's a little bit smaller. Scoot does guard. Scoot does.
He's competitive. Yeah, he's competitive. Yeah.
Then you got Donovan Clingan, up front. So it's like if he just isn't like the absolute weak link on the defensive end, the way that some of their other guards have been in the past years, whether it's one that they just brought back or one that they just traded away. If he's just better on that, on it than either of those guys, then he should be okay.
Yeah, I agree. It is, I would say at like the highest levels, like when you get to the playoffs, it's a weak link sport. Like they find you and they say like, oh, you can't guard. Welcome to hell. But that doesn't happen as much in the regular season. You can fake the funk a little bit. And the Blazers, like, and I'll ask you this, but like, I think they have an outside chance of being a top 5 defense in the NBA. I wouldn't bet on it like right now today, but I don't think that's crazy that they would be one of the 5 best defenses in the league, just because of the personnel they have and how good they were for a big chunk of last season.
If they're a top 5 defense in the league, then they're probably a playoff team, right? Or at least a play-in team.
I did a deep dive on it. It's pretty rare. It's like something like a 70% over the last 5 years, 70% of teams that have a top 5 defense. But most of those teams are also above average on offense. So
I don't know if these guys are going to be, unless a lot of guys take a lot of like if Shaedon becomes like a 40% 3-point shooter and Scoot start, basically if all the stuff we've talked about so far, if Hansen actually is Jokic, then like if all those things happen and they're a top 5 defense, then but they've got a lot. They got a lot to. I'm not as worried about the defense as I am about the offense.
Oh, absolutely. What's your, so they were third the second half of last season. Some of that is the silly season, yada, yada, yada. What's your read on like the floor defensively? Like obviously they might not be three for the year, but like, what do you think is like a reasonable, like, hey, this is probably where they land ish if everything breaks right, and we'll again assume pretty good health on defense. Like, is this a top 10 unit, top 12? Like, where do you think?
I think like 8 to 12, top half of the league, but not like, Oklahoma City, where it's like, they're just like dominant on both ends. I think like 8 to 12 is probably reasonable with the personnel they have if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I would guess that too. I'm a little worried about their depth behind Clingan up front, just because like Young Hansen's 20, so it's just how good can you be at that age? Obviously he's very big. He's very big. That helps, but he might be a learning curve for him. Yeah, I think 8 to 12 is a pretty good guess. Let's talk Scoot Henderson, and then I want to ask you about Jerami Grant. Remember him? We'll do that to close the show. Join me there, won't you? Join Sean too. Well, he'll come along.
Join us.
Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still chatting here with Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report. Where does Scoot Henderson fit into the plans? Is he your starting point guard? Does that not matter? Like, what do you view Scoot's role, and what does ascending Scoot look like this season?
I mean, you just want to see. I think the shooting is the big thing. I mean, I think that did improve over the course of the second half of the season. the finishing, I think, still needs to get to a different place. I think even that, like, it got better, but it's still not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And, I think those are really the two things. Because, I mean, the passing is there. The defense, like we said earlier, he competes on that end.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, and I've been really encouraged by how he can, how he gets to the line. Like, he's like that's, I think, is his best skill on offense at this point, is getting to the line and drawing contact. So that's there. But I think it's the 3-point shot, and it's the actual finishing when he gets to the rim. Like I think those are the two things that, you want to see improve. And some of that is just, some of that is, technique stuff. Some of that is skill stuff. But I think I think there's a lot there to work with. I think there's certainly more there to work with now than you maybe thought there was, going into the season.
Yeah, he was really bad his rookie year, and then he struggled right away year 2, and it was like, uh-oh. But I do think he found his footing, and I think there was a stretch in the middle of the season last year where Scoot was just like good. He was just like, he's been pretty good, like not like world beating and like all these things, but like it's like when he comes in, he has positive minutes.
I think we're out of bust territory at this point with Scoot.
Yeah, I mean, like some of that stuff is like you just get compared to who gets drafted around you, so like some of it is just like the ghost of Amen Thompson will always haunt Scoot, like that's out of his control. But
I think it's less about Amen than it is about the fact that they drafted him, and that's what led to Dame requesting a trade.
Right. But I mean, it wasn't really Scoot, right? It was more like
wasn't his fault. They could have drafted anybody, and Dame would have probably requested a trade.
It was not trading the 3rd pick for Pascal Siakam or whatever.
Right.
That's what it was. It was like, but yeah, I think Scoot's connective passing was really good last year. Mm-hmm. Not just like the assisting stuff, but just like simple passing, hit aheads to the wing, little like switching sides of the court in transition, that type of stuff. Like I thought he was, I thought that was a strength of his. I'm with you on the finishing. Shot 35% from 3 last year and about 4.5 attempts a game.
That's not terrible for a guy that didn't come in seen as a good shooter.
Agreed. The league average is like 36-ish. So he's like slightly below average. I think if he's there on some volume, it's okay. A lot of his threes are guys going under on pick and rolls, though. And so like what you kind of want to see the growth is teams less comfortable going under. When you're less comfortable going under on pick and rolls and they're chasing you, it opens everything up. It opens the roll up. It opens the drive up. Like it's just being a little sharper at some of the stuff, probably like whatever. Yeah. Shout out to Kate Hurley, former yoga instructor of mine, but 3 to 5% better at everything you do. 3 to 5% better at everything you do. That's that. And if he does that, I think it does open up a lot of the stuff for him. I mentioned the starting stuff. I don't really care about starting because I think there's a natural way for him to play 28 to 32 minutes a night. Yeah. And if he's getting that many minutes, it's fine. But I will be curious who finishes games. And I don't think that'll be set in stone, but I will be curious who finishes games. Is Scoot Henderson, is Shaedon Sharpe, who's on the court at the end of the game when you need to get a bucket, when you need to, like that. I think that is more intriguing to me than starting. And I don't even really have a guess on that. If I had to guess, I bet Drew Holiday will start, but I
think like it's going to be
October guess.
I think if you're making me guess right now what the opening night starting lineup is.
I'm just requesting that you guess, Sean.
Actually, wait, is this one, when you're doing the what's more likely thing in the next episode that we're recording at a different date, is that part of it? Or is this
No, we're not going to talk about starters. We're not going to talk about starters in that one. Okay, yeah. So guess.
I think if I had to guess right now, Scoot, Drew, Toumani, Deni, Klingon.
Scoot and Drew. I would guess Drew and Shaedon, but yeah, I think they could play Scoot next to Drew and it'd be fun.
You can play Drew next to either one of them.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. I think you can think of Drew more like a 2-3 than a 1-2. I think he's more like he's an off-ball
at this
guy.
age. Yeah.
Yeah. As you age, you just get stronger.
You go up a position up. Eric Gordon, like back when I remember like 12 years ago, Bill Simmons wrote this column about how like the Clippers can't include Eric Gordon in the Chris Paul trade because there are so few 2 guards in the league. And now, with him still being in the league, he basically plays the 4 like exclusively.
Yeah. He's like a 6'1" power forward. Yeah, it's incredible.
DeMar also was like pretty much exclusively a 4 at this point. He was a two like most of his career.
You slowly graduate from shooting guard to power forward in the modern NBA. It's a beautiful thing. What do they do? Let me ask this another way. Can Jerami Grant bounce back? He was bad last year. What can Jerami Grant rekindle whatever made him a functional NBA player this season?
Sure he can. I don't think but I also don't think, I think if he wasn't making the amount of money that he was making, I don't think anybody is going into this season based on last year saying, oh, that guy has to start. He has to be in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
But
if regardless of money, like he shot 38% on 2-pointers.
Yeah,
he was just like he couldn't score inside the arc. I think, and that's some of that. I think was he didn't love the way the offense kind of shifted away from his bread and butter.
Right.
The way it was explained to me was that he was maybe a little bit mad that he didn't get like direct post ups a bunch, and then I surmise, this was not explained to me, that some of the frustration with role and changing things is like he just didn't have the focus and the sort of the sharpness that you need, and it kind of bled over into a brutal year for him. But yeah, do you think having more adults in the room will help Jerami Grant? Because obviously he's not going to play next to Dame, but do you think the addition of Dame, the addition of Drew Holiday, do you think that kind of gives Jerami a little more clarity about where this thing is headed?
Can't hurt.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of put in this weird position the last couple of years. Because remember, they traded for him because Dame wanted him.
Right.
And then they re-signed him as like a last ditch thing to get Dame not to request a trade, which he did like 24 hours after they agreed to that contract. And now Jerami is kind of by default like the vet on this super young team, which is not what they brought him there to do in the first place. And it just, just like kind of, you can go through so many different guys on this roster and say, well, they brought him there to do this thing. And by the way, that includes the head coach. And like, sure. then they ended up having to do this other thing. And then, I add in the fact that, by the end of all of these last few seasons, they've wanted to look at these young guys. And so Jerami just doesn't play after March. And it's just kind of a weird situation. I think he'll be fine with whatever it ends up being. He's one of these guys where like the last 3 years he hasn't played after March. The checks are clear and he's vibing. I've been following his Instagram. I think he's doing all right.
He does seem to be a wonderful citizen of our community. He does he like goes to the Washington coast and like drives down the 101 into Oregon, and like he was at a taqueria in Northeast Portland, and he seems like he's at the Japanese gardens.
Like a year ago, somebody saw him on the street and took a picture of him and posted it, and he was like holding a cup of coffee from a coffee shop that was like a block from where I live. So if I had happened to be outside at that particular time, I could have just run into Jerami on the street.
It's like, JG, what's up?
He's out here. Him and Matisse are like out here. By the way, did you see when Dame posted his like welcome back video where he posted he did like the pan of all the lockers? The locker that Jerami was in the last 2 years used to be Dame's locker. They moved him over to the locker that has been Ant's locker, but that's next to Tease's locker. So Jerami and Tease are next to each other now, which like those guys are BFFs anyway. So like that's gonna be a good vibes like corner of the locker room.
What was funny was when they first did the trade, I'm a locker room corner locker dork. So the locker room that's been Anfernee Simons and CJ McCollum's was also at one point Scottie Pippen's way back in the day. The corners are where they put the most veteran players. Right.
Like Melo was in one of those at one point.
Yeah, exactly. So the most veteran players have typically had those spaces. And I was like, is it going to be Drew Holiday in the like Scottie Pippen locker? And then it was like, no, Dame's back. Just kidding.
Drew is in the Ayton locker.
The Ayton locker.
Yeah. So the four corner lockers. The four corner lockers are the one that was Nurk's locker is Deni now.
Yep.
Dame has his old locker back, and then the other one, the one that was CJ, and then it was Ant's. That's they moved Jerami back.
Jerami over there, yeah. Lamar.
And then the other corner one that was DA last year, and it was Melo when he was here, and it was actually Jerami before the Dame trade. That's Drew now.
So there you go. Dear listeners, the corner lockers are somewhat important. They are an indication of status to some extent.
Yep.
They are and Scoot's locker will be next to Damian Lillard, which I think is a nice little treat. Hopefully
they've got Hansen next to Time Lord too.
Oh well, there you go. I think
it's like they got all the centers. I think are like Hansen, Time Lord, and Donovan are pretty much all next to each other.
Then WAP is stranded.
WAP is like over on WAP is kind of on that other side with like Toumani and Rayon and I forget who. Chris Murray's like over there too.
Sean Highkin, would you like to come back and play a game for Friday's episode?
Sure.
Dear listeners, come back. Sean and I are going to play a game of What's More Likely. It's going to be coming in your feeds on Friday. Tell your friends about the program. Come back for that when this show is available wherever you get podcasts. It's also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.